Watch right now on the Front Muse project. Hell, in Moscow, dozens of explosions, military facilities are burning. The war has come to the capital of the Russian Federation. The Ukrainian armed forces are taking back Donbas and Crimea. Powerful strikes on enemy military bases and logistics. And this is just the beginning. And also, Putin is helping Iran kill American soldiers in the Middle East. How will Washington respond? Fiery, hot, and blazing. Watch the latest frontline footage right now. Greetings, Vladimir Timoshenko here, and we're starting right away with the main topic. War has come to Moscow, the capital of the Russian Federation, under a massive drone attack. Temporary restrictions were imposed at Domodedovo, Zhukovsky, and Vnukovo airports. The Russian Ministry of Defense reported intercepting 280 drones. The activity has also spread to other Russian cities and regions. Here are the details. One of the most prolonged attacks on Moscow since the beginning of the war. The strike on the Russian capital has lasted longer than a day. For the first time in the Kremlin's memory, Ukraine has launched more drones at Russia than Russia has at Ukraine.
The drone attack on Moscow has been ongoing for several hours. 16 Ukrainian armed forces drones were shot down as they approached the city. At the same time, air raid sirens were not activated either in Moscow or in the region.
Sergei Sobyanin personally reported on the drone situation in the Russian capital. Urgent updates in the mayor's Telegram feed are coming in faster. News.
9:19. 4 UAVs heading toward Moscow were destroyed by the air defense forces of the Ministry of Defense. Emergency service specialists are working at the site where the debris fell. 9:34. The attack by 14 UAVs was repelled by the Ministry of Defense's air defense system. Emergency service specialists are working at the site where the debris fell. 9:43. 8 drones heading toward Moscow were destroyed. Emergency service specialists are working at the site where the debris fell.
Putin is hiding in a bunker in Valdai. The Moscow elite is urgently evacuating from the capital. Meanwhile, the military is pulling all available air defense systems to the Kremlin. As a result, at this moment, there are about 100 towers for the Panzer air defense systems around Moscow. This is almost twice as many as were previously protecting the Russian capital in 2025. Overall, a 50-kilometer air defense ring has been created around Moscow, but even that cannot cope with a massive attack by the Ukrainian armed forces. Russian missile troops are shooting down drones right over residential neighborhoods. Residents of Vnukovo, a suburb of Moscow, complain about the endless cannonades of explosions and shrapnel flying overhead.
There's a quarry dug out there, and that's where the silicate is. So they were filming there, and right here is where it exploded somewhere.
Residents of Volgograd, Russia, also haven't been able to sleep since last night.
My hands are shaking.
The air defense in the city doesn't stop for a moment. Local residents are broadcasting live reports from basements and bathrooms.
You do as you like, but I'm going to wait it out in the bathroom.
It seems that this time the local grass power plant and the nearby Lukoil oil refinery won't be able to escape unscathed.
It's already dawn, and they're still coming and coming.
In the daytime, the large-scale raid on Russian territory now hits Novorossiysk. Local residents report air defense activity, and white smoke can be seen coming from the direction of the port. Over the weekend, the Kremlin also lost track of 2 of its ships. Fighters from our main intelligence directorate managed to strike the ferry Slavyanin and the vessel Avangard, which formed the backbone of the Kirch ferry crossing and played one of the key roles in the enemy's naval logistics. Specifically, we're talking about the transportation of weapons, military equipment, ammunition, and fuel.
These ferries have already been hit in previous years, and in 2024, they were specifically targeted again, including the ferry. Slavyanin, was there any damage as well? In that regard, yes, there was. And they say that these ferries, Slavyanin and Avangard, were kind of the last ones capable of transporting railway tank cars from one shore, that is from the Krasnodar region, to the other shore, to Kerch, to Crimea.
The occupiers can find no peace, neither on land, nor on water, nor in the air. This weekend, Ukrainian armed forces drones also paid a visit to Putin's military airfields. Thus, in Maykop, the Kanskaya airfield was attacked. Additionally, in the region, UAVs also visited defense industry enterprises in Nevinomysk and Kirovo-Chepetsk. As a result, instead of actively fighting against Ukrainian drones, the Kremlin has started fighting the spread of information about the strikes. Russian authorities are massively shutting down the internet across the country. Even Moscow is left in an information vacuum without the World Wide Web. For more than a week now, there have been large-scale disruptions to mobile communications and internet access in the Russian capital. Even the so-called white list entities, services designated by the Ministry of Digital Development that were supposed to remain accessible during restrictions, are barely functioning. A weak signal can only be caught in certain areas and on moving metro trains.
They gave us back just a little bit. You know, someone used to say, oh, give me back my 2008. There you go. That's about right. And
things are only going to get much worse. Russia is rushing headlong back to the Stone Age. In 2026, Muscovites are buying up pagers, paper maps, and landline phones.
in an even more radical development, industry experts are reporting that sales have increased by up to 70% just this week. The overall sales of pagers, traditional landline telephones, and portable walkie-talkies. With
disruptions in communication and internet blockages, people are going back to old methods of staying in touch. And atlases are replacing GPS. A little more, and instead of taxis, they'll be launching carriages beyond the curb. As for messaging, Muscovites will be using carrier pigeons instead of Telegram or even Max.
Well then, now for an analysis of the current situation on the blazing Pokrovsk front line. Fierce fighting continues. On the Pokrovsk front, the enemy has launched 35 attacks. The occupiers tried to advance toward populated areas. Vilna, Novoalexandrovka, Shevchenko, Toretskoye, Beletskoye, Novaya Shakova. And in the areas of the settlements of Zatishok, Nikonorovka, Kotlina, Novonikolaevka, Udaknaya, Novopodgorodnyaya, Mirnograd, Rodinskaya, Molodetskaya, and Filia. Fighting continues in 5 locations. Meanwhile, a military warehouse in Luhansk region and an Iskander missile launcher in Crimea have been destroyed. Russian air defense operators are throwing up their hands in helplessness as they are unable to intercept Ukrainian Flamingos. Yes, Ukraine is moving to liberate its rightful territories. Let's watch all the details.
Ukrainian forces are intensifying their strike campaign. Enemy logistics facilities and manpower are under fire. Everything is going according to plan. Putin and the Ministry of Defense can't keep up with producing new missiles and drones.
We were asked to drastically reduce the production of what is needed for the front.
A strike on a Shahed drone warehouse and on a repurposed deployment point of the Russian armed forces at Donetsk airport.
In
the occupied Luhansk region, powerful explosions are being heard. In the video, you can hear a warehouse with missiles for enemy air defense detonating. Which the occupiers were literally keeping right next to a residential area. Dolzhansky Sverdlovsky. Local residents wrote about this. Representatives of the resistance movement in the territories of Donbas occupied by the enemy directly contributed to these precise strikes. So,
you're selling out your motherland for a pittance, you scum? Why are you filming this and posting it? Why are you providing information?
While the Russians were shelling peaceful cities in Ukraine, the defense forces were harvesting military targets in annexed Crimea. There, Special Operations Forces units hit the launch pads with long-range drones. Iskander. The Iskander OTRK is a very cool and rare target. The installation was ready for an attack on Ukraine. The crew was nearby. A secondary detonation of the ammunition was recorded. Several drones successfully struck an entire Iskander storage facility in the village of Kurortne. An Iskander cost the Russian army about $700,000 and over $2 million for export. The Kremlin is in shock because now Russian air defense cannot intercept the Flamingo.
Right now, we can produce about 3 missiles a day.
The Flamingo is a unique missile developed by Ukrainians. It is quite large, with a wingspan of 7 meters and a warhead about 1 meter long, weighing 1 ton. It is launched from a ground-based launcher and can fly toward its target at fairly low.
As they reach these extraordinarily staggering and breathtakingly immense altitudes, facing the thin air and the biting cold of the mountain peaks, the valiant and courageous souls who dare to venture into the unknown demonstrate an unwavering and indomitable spirit of pure, unadulterated bravery that defines the very essence of human exploration.
Ukrainian defenders are destroying the enemy at sea as well. They struck 2 military vessels. The enemy railway ferry Slavyanin was put out of commission and the vessel Avangard was damaged. They were the main elements of the so-called Kerch ferry crossing and were involved in transporting weapons, military equipment and ammunition. Kerch Bridge, get ready!
There's another one up there. There's another one. On the right, on the left, everywhere. They completely blew up the entire bay, the whole bay.
The defense forces continue turning Russian equipment into scrap metal. The occupiers have lost the Nebo-U radar station in the area of Gvardeyskoye in Crimea. Near Sadovoy in the Donetsk region, an S-300 air defense system radar was destroyed. In Donbas, command posts were hit. Observation posts in the areas of Uglegorsk, Grafskoye and Kermenchuk. Ukrainian Special Operations Forces continue to destroy enemy targets so that Russia cannot wage war against Ukraine. Our defenders are confidently moving forward to take back all the lands that dictator Putin occupied with his army.
And now we move to the Konstantinovka direction of the front. The enemy is raging here as well. In the Konstantinovka direction, the occupiers stormed our defenders' positions 21 times today. In the direction of Konstantinovka, Ilinovka, Novopavlovka, and in the areas of the settlements of Prishchevka, Berestok, and Rusinyar. One combat engagement is still ongoing. According to local terrorists, Ukraine is becoming a legitimate target for Iranian missiles. And President Zelensky claims that he has 100% proof that the Kremlin is helping Iran kill American soldiers in the Middle East. But Trump is refusing to help Kyiv, just as he is refusing to lift the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. What is happening in the Middle East? We have prepared for you the main events, major scandals, revealed secrets, and their consequences.
Iran is threatening Ukraine with war. A member of the Iranian parliament, in response to the arrival of Ukrainian specialists in Middle Eastern countries, began threatening strikes. The Islamist hypocritically remained silent about the Iranian Shahed drones with which Russia is terrorizing Ukrainian cities.
By supporting the Israeli regime with drones, failing Ukraine has effectively entered the war, and according to Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, has turned its entire territory into a legitimate target for Iran.
The Middle East is becoming yet another theater of war, where Russia and Ukraine are fighting on opposite sides. Kyiv is helping the US, Israel, and the monarchies in the region defend themselves against Iranian drones. And Moscow is providing support to Tehran by supplying technologies, spare parts, and intelligence information.
Russia has transferred drones and intelligence data about US bases in the Middle East to Iran. I have 100% proof that the Iranian regime used them against American bases and against its Middle Eastern neighbors. Iran, the Russians are using Iranian licenses under which they have built and produced a large number of drones. Now they are sending them back.
In 2 weeks of fighting, the opposing sides have launched tens of thousands of aerial bombs, missiles, and drones. The US and Israel continue their hunt for the top leadership of Iran. The State Department is offering a reward of $10 million for information on the whereabouts of the new spiritual leader. Arab media report that Ali Khamenei's son, Moshtaba, has been evacuated to Russia.
A high-ranking source close to Iran's new supreme leader, Moshtaba Khamenei, told Al Jarida that Khamenei was brought to Moscow on a Russian military plane as part of a highly secret operation due to concerns about his health and safety. Upon arrival, he underwent a successful surgery and is currently receiving treatment at a private hospital located near one of the presidential palaces.
Meanwhile, Tehran continues to terrorize the region and strain the rest of the world. The Strait of Hormuz is locked down, oil remains above $100 per barrel, and drones and missiles are striking American military bases as well as oil and financial centers in the Persian Gulf.
this is a drone that's going up. Take a look at this drone that is currently ascending. If it is indeed going up, then we can clearly see that it is moving higher. A very powerful bomb was here in Berlin. We will only consider the possibility of ending the war when, first, we receive full compensation from the United States for all our losses, and second, the withdrawal of American troops from the Persian Gulf.
Strikes on black gold, American money and business in the region have opened Pandora's box. Starting from the third week, one of the main targets of the American army became Iran's Karg Island.
By my order, the United States Central Command carried out one of the most powerful bombing raids in the history of the Middle East, and completely destroyed all military facilities on Karg Island, the Pearl of Iran. For humanitarian reasons, I decided not to destroy the oil infrastructure on the island. However, if Iran or anyone else does anything to impede the free and safe passage of ships through the Hormuz Strait, I will immediately reconsider this decision.
Karg Island is the Achilles heel of the Islamist regime. Despite Western sanctions, the resilience of the Iranian economy is ensured by oil sales to China. The island, located in the middle of the Persian Gulf, is Iran's main terminal, through which more than 90% of its black gold exports pass. In
military affairs, it is rare for the enemy to present you with such a unique target as Karg Island, one that could fundamentally change the outcome of the conflict. If Iran loses control or the ability to manage its oil infrastructure on Karg Island, its economy will be destroyed. Whoever controls Karg Island controls the fate of this war.
In parallel with the deployment of several thousand U.S. Marines to the Middle East, Republican Lindsey Graham, who is close to Donald Trump, hints at a ground operation to seize the island by American forces. The slogan, Semper Fi, translated from Latin as always faithful, is the official motto of the Marine Corps, USA.
And now it's time to analyze the situation on the Orikhiv front. Let's be honest, this is yet another sacred goal for Putin and his entire gang. Accordingly, the situation here is extremely tense. On the Orikhiv front, the enemy carried out one offensive operation in the direction of Pavlivka. Airstrikes were carried out on Orikhiv and Veselyanka. No money, not even for drones. In Russia, propagandists have started talking about financial problems, and they're doing it live on air. Is the Russian military-industrial complex really starting to feel a budget shortfall? And why are there fewer drones now? We'll tell you all about it in our report.
There's simply no money? Are you hanging in there?
There's no money, but hang in there. That's how it is now. In Russia, they're saying this not only to ordinary citizens, but also to the military. Russia's military-industrial complex is currently experiencing a major crisis, so major that even propagandists have started openly talking about it live on air.
Everyone involved with the military-industrial complex now knows there's no money, so you need to downsize. We can't afford it. And why is that? Because they've brought the economy to its knees. What are you suggesting we fight with? Tell me, please, let's say they need Mavics there, but those have to be paid for and delivered. With what money? The need is enormous, but there's no money. No, they do place orders. The front says, give us some, but...
There's no cash for it. Look at what Iran has shown. Huge underground factories which the Koreans built, or at least the depot. And how many do we have in Donbas? Mines that could be repurposed and used for production. But money is needed. What are we going to fight with? Musin rifles have already run out.
What Putin's courtiers feared most has happened. Problems in the Russian economy caused by the war they started are now also affecting their ability to continue waging this war. Going forward, military production is on the brink.
You see, the situation is such that, in principle, Russia's philosophy is to throw everything into the military sphere and to sacrifice the civilian sector. To sacrifice it. But there's a nuance. If there isn't even enough for the military, then no matter how much political will there is to spend on defense, it just doesn't work out. And in fact, that's what's causing the hysteria, not only from Solovyov, but also from many so-called war correspondents. The reality is that there really isn't enough money in the Russian economy. This is when enterprises, including military ones, by the way, fulfill orders but don't get paid. After that, they have nothing to pay their workers with and they shut down. Well, not all of them, of course, but even in Russia's military-industrial complex, there are already cases where enterprises connected to the defense industry have closed down. There is going to be a budget sequestration in Russia now, What is sequestration? It's when a budget is adopted, a short period of time passes, and it becomes clear that there isn't enough money for, the expenses that were planned start getting cut. But why is this happening again? Because the economy isn't working and isn't generating the necessary profit.
But it would be wrong to say that there is no money at all in Russia. But the immediate outlook for Russian defense factories is to cut the budget even further and reduce production even more. At the same time, Putin still wants to continue the war. After all, let's not forget, for him the worst thing is to lose face. That's exactly why, to the whole world. He is trying to prove that Russia can keep fighting for many more years. This is
the problem with the Russian mentality. You know, I always give a historical example. World War I. Germany was doing just fine in World War I. It's not like Berlin was being captured. There were no military operations on German territory. As they joked, it was more likely that German soldiers could see Paris through their binoculars. Then at that moment, the German government analyzes the situation and realizes that their economy is collapsing. The economy does not allow you to keep fighting. In other words, you either stop paying pensions and salaries to public sector workers but keep fighting, or you surrender and preserve the possibility for your economy to survive. When you think several moves ahead, you undoubtedly follow the path of Germany in World War I. But when you don't think ahead, you behave like Russia does now. That's why many people, including Donald Trump, ask the question, "We can see that your economy is collapsing. Why don't you want to stop the war?" They say, "No, we will keep fighting." Well, accordingly, they like to say that they're fighting to the last citizen of Ukraine, but in reality, they're fighting to the last ruble in their treasury.
a vivid proof that Russia cannot continue the war on its own is also the fact that the Kremlin is trying to get help from other partner countries. But one of the Kremlin's strategically important partners was Iran, which now cannot even supply Russia with the necessary number of drones.
Accordingly, what Russia did not receive remained in Iran, and Iran used it. As they say, in wartime, there was no time to redo the inscription. Shahed Iran. That's why a drone with the inscription Kirai flew to the Emirates. And this is proof that the cooperation is really very close, very tight. And now, by the way, I want to draw attention to how many drones there were. Let's say the end of 2025, January, the first half of February 2026, there was a huge number of drones that Russia was sending to Ukraine every night. And during intense attacks, there were 700 to 800 drones. And everyone was writing that 1,000 drones was a prospect for the very near future, maybe even weeks, not even a month. What do we see now? The last massive attack on Ukraine was 400, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 420, maybe 460 drones. So not only was there not 1,000, there weren't even 500. And this, it seems to me, is confirmation that to a large extent these drones are made from components that are produced in Iran.
Russia wanted to gain something in the war against Ukraine, but it turned out that it keeps losing. It seems there is only one person left in Russia who believes that everything is going according to plan. And
now it's time to discuss in detail the situation on the Huliay-Pol front. The Russian world continues here as well to destroy, kill, and maim. There were 20 attacks by the occupiers in the Huliay-Pol direction. In the area of Huliay-Pol and towards Zheleznodorozhnoye, Varvarovka, Svatopetrovka, Oleno-Konstantinovka, and Charivne. The enemy also carried out airstrikes on the areas of the settlements of Charivne, Huliay-Pilske, Kapani, Myrne, Vozdvizhenka, Verkhnyaya Tersa, Novoselivka, and Barvinivka. 3 combat engagements are still ongoing. Ukraine itself is closing its own sky. A one-of-a-kind heavenly dome over a vast country. The number of Russian drones being shot down has increased many times over. Thanks to what and to whom is all this becoming a reality? We'll tell you everything now.
The Ukrainian air defense system is reaching a new level.
Ukraine has now developed the full capability of shooting down the vast majority of Shahed drones entirely on its own.
Ukraine is building a new model of defense, flexible, technological, and adapted to modern warfare. It's not just about the equipment. In recent months, the effectiveness of Ukrainian air defense has noticeably increased. This is thanks to changes in the command system, redistribution of resources, and new personnel decisions. In the Air Force,
the effectiveness of Ukrainian air defense in countering drones has increased due to the efficient use of the forces and means we have. after personnel changes, including in the Air Force, including due to the fact that Pavel Yelizarov joined the...
For the renewed Ministry of Defense, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has set a strategic priority. For us, it's 2026.
Either the US will grant us a license for the Patriot, or we will get a license from one of our European partners, or Ukraine will have its own air defense system. We shouldn't reject any of these approaches, but we'll see which comes first.
In other words, Kyiv is considering several scenarios at once, from licensing Western technologies to creating its own air defense system. The president emphasizes that for Defense Minister Mikhailo Fedorov, the key task is precisely to secure Ukraine's skies. We
will take steps in air defense and missile development. We will need to have several hundred systems. We don't have 100 or 200 years to wait for one system per year. We need production. We must protect the sky. Later, we will also need to protect the ports and reopen the airports. And
Ukraine is currently and actively working on the development and creation of its own sophisticated air defense system, which in some ways is highly comparable in its functionality to Israel's Iron Dome.
At the moment, we clearly understand the four components that will work together to create our Ukrainian dome. It will be different from the Israeli one, because our dome needs to be much larger. On our dome, let's say the Israeli dome is just a small spot, purely in terms of size, I mean. So to saturate that little spot, it's possible to saturate that spot with expensive missiles, but to saturate our dome with large missiles like Patriot or Iris, for example, is impossible. That's why we will have our own solution. It exists, it has been approved, and we are still moving forward with it.
During one of the latest massive Russian attacks, Ukrainian air defense intercepted about 500 aerial targets. And what's especially noteworthy is that on that night, Ukrainian forces managed to destroy all the cruise missiles that were launched.
today we have achieved a 100% shootdown rate of cruise missiles. It is truly rare for 100% of missiles, such as Kaiju 101 or Caliber, to be intercepted.
Such a result is not a coincidence. To a large extent, this became possible thanks to the Ukrainian innovative method of countering aerial attacks. Today, this experience is already being closely studied by military experts around the world.
In modern warfare, it is impossible to fight using expensive missiles. Some alternative types of weapons are needed, and everyone realized that Ukrainian interceptor drones are just such an alternative. And today we see just how much interest there is in this type of weapon. And
today, Ukrainian technologies are entering the global market. Several countries from the Middle East to Europe are showing interest in Ukrainian drones and interception systems. According to Western media, the United States of America, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain are negotiating the purchase of Ukrainian drones.
the drones we produce, although highly affordable and budget-friendly, came to us, let's say, under difficult conditions, very difficult ones. For us, they are significantly more expensive than their actual cost. Money. In
Europe, they are now discussing not only deliveries, but also joint production.
Today, Europe's security is built on technology and drones. There are several different projects. All of this will be largely based on Ukrainian technologies and Ukrainian specialists. We are simply in a state of war, and not all companies yet feel free enough to enter other markets.
Ukrainian air defense systems are becoming more accurate every day. Interceptor drones are becoming more effective, and the experience of Ukrainian engineers and military personnel is attracting the attention of the whole world. Now, Ukraine is not only defending itself, it is creating new standards of air security and proving that technology can become the key to a state's independence and security.
That's all for today, but very soon on the Front News program, there will be new, unique reports from our journalists in the hottest spots of the war, gathered so that you know the truth. This was Volodymyr Tymoshenko with you. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones.